Thank you for joining us today for instructions for the Form I-765. Today we're going to be going over the general form and just answer some common questions, concerns, and some mistakes that we often see when students are filling out this form. The Form I-765 is used for employment authorization for a lot of different visa types. So when you're looking at this form, it is not just used for F1 students or J2 when they're trying to obtain that employment authorization document. So just be cautious when you're going through. It's easy if you start the document and just see if you can answer the questions and then go to the instructions. But the first thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that you're using the current form. So we always instruct students to go directly to the source. These are also linked in our ISSS portal, so you don't have to travel outside of the portal if you're looking at the instructions. But USCIS does update these frequently. They actually just had an update in August of 2020. And so when you're looking at that, just know that it should be current. And if you're going to the USCIS website, they're always going to have the one that's currently available and any notices about changes and deadlines listed on the page for that particular form. It's also important to note that, it's really great to type this up. So if you go to the website or you're filling it out as a PDF, save it to your desktop. You do have to sign it with a handwritten signature. So even if you fill it all out online, make sure that you are adding that signature and that you're answering all these questions accurately and completely. When you don't have an answer to the questions, make sure that you're marking the boxes NA. NA is for not applicable. And that's also kind of directed to you in the instructions. This document is a 7-page document, so you want to make sure that when you're including a request that you're including all pages. If it's missing a page, it will get rejected. And when you're printing it out, we recommend that you print it out single-sided. So when USCIS is scanning those documents in, it's easy for them to do because everything is single-sided. So USCIS is U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. They manage almost all the government forms, but not everything. But when you're working with USCIS, you're going to be mailing the I-765 with your other documents for both the OPT, the standard 12-month, and the STEM OPT extension, which is the 24-month extension. Again, I mentioned that you're going to want to visit their website for current forms, updates, and instructions. And again, we keep those linked in the ISSS portal. When you're looking at the Form I-765, the important thing is that, again, like I said, this form is used for lots of different employment authorization. So if you're in a different category, you're still going to fill out the same form, but you might be answering different questions. This particular instruction series is going to be talking about our J1 and F1 students. Our J1 students are not eligible to apply for the EAD. So primarily, this will be used for our F1 students when applying for OPT. Mentioned it's 7 pages, and the instructions are in here. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to navigate to that I-765 form as well as the page so I can show you a little bit around. So when we visit the USCIS website, I'm on the page for the I-765 form directly. Any important alerts or notices will be noted at the top, as well as the forms, the instructions, and any other pertinent information. This is also helpful to note that you can find out where to file and the filing fees. So if you're curious if you've got the correct amount on your checks when you're sending in an I-765 application, you can click down here to make sure that your check is current and that you're paying the proper fees based on your particular status. So we're going to click on and look at the Form I-765 directly just to kind of point out a couple of things. You'll notice at the top of this form, it has an expiration date. It's okay if that form, expires, but you want to make sure that, again, if it's past that date, looking to see if there's a new form, and you want to make sure that you're using the form that's noted as current. Down in the bottom left-hand corner of the form, it'll say the edition that this form is. This particular edition is 8/25/2020. So it is important to constantly follow to see if they've made updates anytime that they ask for additional information or additional clarification. They will make that change there. And so we are always looking at what edition you've completed. But again, it's your responsibility to make sure that you're completing the correct forms and uploading those documents in our portal. Now, from the I-765 page, we can also go to the instructions. And the instructions for the I-765 form are really helpful. It has some general information in here about who can file, but this is a 31-page document. So the most important thing when you're looking at this is what is the category that you're applying for and finding that category. So when we're looking at our non-immigrant student categories, you're going to find where does it say F1, and it's going to give you some specific information on that F1 category. And then in addition, when you get down to the last few pages, it talks about specific instructions for just the form itself. So you'll look up your category, and then further on, you're going to look at the actual instructions. So right here on page 7, it talks about the foreign student categories. And so I always tell students, read through this information. It might answer some questions that you might have. Commonly, what's the category I'm applying for? If you're applying for pre-completion OPT, it's C3A. If you're applying for post-completion OPT, which is the most common, it's C3B. All international students are eligible to apply for post-completion OPT. That gives you 12 months of OPT. And if you're applying for the STEM extension because you have an eligible CIP code on your major, you're going to be using the C3C CIP code listed on item C. Now, in here, it talks about some of the important timelines, but again, these instructions are helpful because they tie directly back to the form itself. So if you don't follow the instructions, usually it's a failure to read through these instructions. We try to keep it simple in the portal, but it is your responsibility to make sure that you've completed these forms accurately. We're going to navigate back to the presentation. So after you've kind of looked at that form and the instructions online, you're going to continue to fill out that form. Again, we've talked about the importance of using the correct form, making sure that the date and the edition is the current edition. And then you want to make sure that, it's still eligible. Again, following any instructions online. And then can express the importance of making sure that you have that handwritten signature. Even during COVID, they still require that the I-765 has a printed signature. And so I would always sign and date that in black ink. And again, making sure that you mark the answers that are not applicable to you with NA. It may seem to someone who's reviewing this form that it's incomplete or you failed to answer the question. And so making sure that you either have an answer or that you're able to put NA in there is important. Now, if you're filling it online, the form will not let you put NA in every field. If it doesn't allow you to do that, that's fine. Move on to the next question. On the form I-765. So we're going to go over some various sections of this form just to highlight some common mistakes. Now, it seems really obvious, but when you're filling out the form, you want to mark the reason that you're applying. I've had students who've left this blank or they've marked initial regardless of when they're applying. If it's the first time that you're applying for an EAD card, you're going to mark that 1A, initial permission to accept employment. If you're renewing your EAD card because you're applying for that STEM extension, you're going to mark 1C, which is that renewal of permission to accept employment. And then you're going to include with that request a copy of those EAD cards. When you're looking at part 2, the important thing is that you use your legal name. This should be what's on your passport. But they also want to know if you have other names. For many of our international students, they might have nicknames that they go by as a first name. And you can list those under the other names under the information about you. There's also a category for your mailing address. Now, as you know, you're supposed to report your local mailing address to our office within 10 days of any change. When you're applying for the I-765 application, you may not be sure of where you're going to be living and if you're going to be living in that address when your EAD card is actually mailed. So we often recommend to students that they use the Office of Global Engagement address because we can receive that mail and then send you an email when it arrives. Our office, you can always put in care of Utah State University. If you're filling it out, it's going to have a character limitation, so you're probably not going to be able to put Utah State University Global Engagement. Often people will put Office of Global Engagement, but Utah State University is sufficient. For the street address, you're going to use 9545 Old Main Hill. We don't have an apartment, a suite, or a floor. Just use the 9545 Old Main Hill. And then Logan, Utah, our zip code on campus is 84322. Now, this is not your physical address, so you're going to make sure that you mark no and then put your current address at the time that you're applying in the physical mailing address. One of the questions it asks for your alien registration number. What's confusing for this is that it then says A number. This is not your Aggie ID number, so do not include your A number on this application. There is no student information required for the I-765. Generally, they're asking about your travel, your passport information, your port of entry information, and any legal names and other material that you use. On here, USCIS online account number. You're not required to create a USCIS online account. Some students do when they have a problem or they need to do an address update. So this is also not required at the time that you're submitting your I-765 application for OPT or a STEM extension. The other important thing to note is when you're applying for your STEM extension, you may have an EAD card. And if you look up the number on that EAD card, it is, an alien registration number, but because you're an international student, that number on your EAD card is not for the same purpose. If you do fill it out from the number on your EAD card, it's typically, I've never seen a denial for it, but it is not something that you need to provide. Social Security. Social Security is required for you to work, but if you've never had a job on campus, you're not going to likely have a Social Security number. The nice thing about this process is that you're able to request a Social Security number as part of applying for the EAD card. When you get to question 14, it asks you if you provide their consent to receive that EAD card. The reason why they ask for your consent is that they're going to share information with other government and federal offices, and they need your permission to do that. If you do not request a Social Security number as part of this process, you're going to have to wait till you get the EAD card in the mail and then go to the Social Security office in person. You have to have either an employment offer letter, say on-campus work, or an EAD card to be eligible to apply for a Social Security number. Having this as part of the application expedites you getting that Social Security card, as well as saves you a trip to the Social Security office. I highly recommend that if you don't have a Social Security number, you request it here. Now, when we're talking about I-94, students are downloading what's called an I-94 record when they arrive into the country. It's a port of entry record that the government tracks when you enter the US. That I-94 number is often used in government and state applications, but it's also used to verify your coming and going out of the US. So if you don't have a copy of your most recent I-94, that port of entry document, you're going to go to the Custom Border Protection website listed here and download that I-94 record. This is a document that you're going to be mailing with your I-765 application for OPT or STEM OPT. In order to retrieve that I-94 number, it's really simple. All you need is your passport to retrieve it. And then once you have downloaded it, you're going to enter that I-94 number on 21A. The other items listed here is your passport number. Most of our international students do not have a travel document number. If you do, you're going to list that. And then again, your country that your passport was listed and the expiration of that passport. In order to apply for work authorization, you should always have valid documents. Your passport should always be valid 6 months into the future. So when you get to this point and you're noticing that your passport's expired, you're going to want to renew it as soon as possible because again, Your status in the US is based on you having the documents that keep you in status. That's a valid I-20 and a valid passport. Now, that port of entry document, when you go to the I-94 website, and on your I-94 document, it shows the date that you last arrived into the US. And if you select the travel details while you're on the I-94 website, it'll also show you the port of entry that you recently arrived in. That's going to be that last port that you've entered. So make sure that you're looking at your I-94, and if you don't have all that information, look at the travel history by logging in and printing off that I-94. For most students, again, it's going to be that F1 student category. Again, this form is used for other non-immigrant and immigrant visas for employment authorization. So be sure that you mark the appropriate visa category that your I-94 says. So if you look at your I-94 and it shows that you entered the country on a different visa type, you want to make sure you note that. This is also an important place to note that if you're not here as an F1 student, this could cause you problems. So I have had students who, at the time when they're providing a port of entry, their status, they might have to exit and re-enter the country to enter on the proper visa. So we always recommend after you travel throughout your degree program that you pull your I-94 record after you return to the US so you can make sure that you're here on an F1 student duration of status. Now, number 26 should be obvious, but I've had many students that don't know what number 26 is asking for. The CVIS number is the number on your I-20 that starts with N00. So whether you have, if you're going to look at your current I-20 and obtain that CVIS number, and it's the number that starts with N. So you're going to fill that out on number 26. Now, when we look at the eligibility category, when we were looking at those instructions, we talked about C3A, C3B, C3C, and it all sounds like we're talking in a different language. But you're going to be putting that eligibility category on item 27. So if you're applying for post-degree OPT, you're going to put in number 27, C3B. Now, if you're applying for that STEM extension, in number 27, you're going to put C3C, and then you're going to fill out the next questions, because number 28 says if your category is C3C, you're going to provide the next few answers. One, that's in providing the degree that you received from Utah State University. And when you're applying for STEM, you actually have to already have a job and be employed with someone. And so you're going to fill out the employer's E-Verify number and their name. So when you're applying for standard OPT, you're just going to fill out number 27. But when you're applying for STEM, you're going to fill out all those questions. So when you're looking at the name of your degree, when you're filling this out online, it does have limited space. So try to fill it out as much as possible. I know I have many students tell me that their degree name will not fit on 28A. That's okay. Fill it out to your best of your ability, abbreviate if needed. And then again, if you have questions about E-Verify, you can visit USCIS's website listed at the bottom to find more information about your E-Verify number. And if your employer does not have one, you're not going to be able to apply for the STEM extension with that particular employer. So the E-Verify number is always an important thing to ask when applying for OPT. So then later down the road, when you apply for that STEM extension, you know that that employer's eligible for you to have that request with them. On the Form I-765, again, you need to sign this document. So make sure that you sign this with black ink and date it the date that you fill it out. We're going to ask that you provide all of this document in its full entirety to our Global Engagement portal. The reason why is that often students will fill it out later, or fill it out after they've spoken with an advisor, or upload an incomplete copy. We want to know that you filled out this actual document, signed it, and you've provided it to the best of your ability, and that it's accurate based on your understanding of the form. After you upload it, if we review it and it's inaccurate, we can give you edits and you can upload a corrected form. But again, we want to see that form completed. So don't just upload a copy of the I-765 form halfway filled out, or only fill out the ones that you have questions on. We want to see the full form with your signature. So print it out and upload the full form. After you uploaded all of the documents to the ISSS portal, it takes 3 to 5 days for us to review those documents and turn around and give you an I-20 for either the OPT or the STEM extension. Just some quick reminders, if you haven't updated your address, please do so on your MyUSU, so that way we know that you have a correct address in SEVIS and that it's been updated in Banner. Make sure that you've signed that I-765 form and that you've uploaded all the required documents and read all of the learning content and signed off on all the signature documents. When you're uploading these documents, please make sure that you are uploading documents that we can see and read. Often those scanners, like a CAM scanner, cuts off the bottom of the document. We're not going to be able to tell if you're using the correct edition. And as always, if you have questions, make an appointment. But it is much easier for us to review your form after you've submitted the request and then give you edits than it is for us to talk about a hypothetical form. If you have any questions, please visit Global Engagement and make an appointment with your primary advisor or our peer advisor if you have questions about the process. We're happy to assist and look forward to seeing you online.